Hello, everybody. This is Scott LeRette, and I'm the host of the Green Pants Podcast. And today's going to be a little bit different because things have been evolving. They have since the first episode. The first couple episodes, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe even into the 5th episode, it was really focusing on dreams. And because I think, and I look at what I did, my family, our story and whatnot, and it'd be easy to say, you accomplished your dream, you did this and that. And there were pretty amazing things that happened, to write a book that did as well as it did, to make a movie with one of the biggest studios in the world with star-studded talent. I mean, it's the odds are just incalculable, as some close friends had called it, a moonshot that are in the industry. Because the airwaves, the film, that bandwidth width is extremely protected and valuable. So to be able to get 2 hours in multiple screens in theaters all over the world is pretty crazy. It's not lost on me whatsoever. I'm blessed, and it's all, above me. It's above my pay grade. I owe it all to God. My higher power, absolutely. But at the same time, I just didn't want to continue to have this podcast about dreams. Do this and you can make your dream come true. It's part of everything, sure. But I'm going over ground that I've already covered, so I won't belabor it. I wanted to talk about more culture, current events, things like that. I'm going to continue to do that. So I'm going to share with you what's going on, though, because there's actually some things that have happened that have just, they're things that I really haven't shared with a lot of people. For example, last year I started writing. I wrote a ton last year. I started a second book. I started and finished a screenplay. I started a different book. I started and finished a third book. The second book didn't get finished. And the third book is really, I've never been this thrilled about writing anything in my entire life. It's fiction. So I've also got the podcast. Now, let's back up a little bit. I'm going to give you first some of the things that I'm going to talk about on the podcast. So what we're going to look at, where's this podcast going? Where's my writing going? What about movies, screenplays, other things that I have on the agenda? Because there's a lot, and it's super cool. The podcast, I want to get into some things that are just, to me, kind of, it's just front and center and to all of us. So I've got, I guess, 6, 7, maybe 8 topics for podcast episodes I'm going to share with you. I'd love to hear what you think and what you would like. And I'm all ears too, because it's, for example, one of them I have the moral and cultural decay. And that, of course, revolves around social media, people in the spotlight that have become famous for becoming famous. That's it. Modern fame, vanity, moral drift, erode virtue, family, and faith. I think that's a really big one. Idolatry is such a common thing in our society. We put things up on pedestals that, to me, I think they should be replaced with other things. Only one thing, right? Your higher power. But let me go through some of these, though. The divide. Division is one that I've talked about already a couple of times, so let's just jump over that one. A personal reflection on recovery, faith, and freedom. I think I'm going to have an episode where I have actually someone that I know really well, I care about a great deal, and he's got some different ideas on recovery, and I think he's got not quite half of my recovery, a little less than that, but I'm going to have that, and it's pretty exciting to be able to bring him on. Cures versus profits. Here's one that's really cool. I'm pretty excited because I didn't, as always, and I'll have this as a disclaimer for anything that I write or read or say. If I can be shown to be inaccurate, please point it out, and I will make a retraction or a correction. Absolutely. But I'd heard this. The title of this I have, Cures versus Profits in Pharma, When Healing Meets Greed, Faith and Ethics in Medicine. This one is super duper cool because here's the part that I heard someone say this once on a national, I don't know if it was a news show or something, but in all the history, I think they actually pointed out, I think it was Pfizer, in the entire life of that company, I'm positive it was Pfizer, they've never created something that actually cured a disease, meaning all of their drugs are palliative. They maintained, which of course, if you look at it from that perspective, it means that you would need to be on that medicine possibly forever. So again, I think it was Pfizer, but even with that, say it's not 100% correct. To me, it blows me away because I think, you know darn well that in pharma, there's lots of therapies and things like that where they count on people. They count on the captive audience coming back and needing it again and again and again and again. That's profits. That's profits. If they came out and said, oh, you just take 5 of these pills, it's done. You know, it's cured. They'd have to make them $1,000 pills. Well, they're actually already doing that. That's a really good one. The awakening and renewal. Here's one that I really want to look at. Rebirth and trust in God's timing after silence. There's so much evidence showing that faith, Christianity, higher power, all those things are rebounding. And you'd be shocked. I spoke about this one time, but the demographics of the folks that are coming back into the fold in the faith, pretty wild, pretty radical, pretty cool. Extreme wealth and Hollywood illusion. What did I write about this? How extreme wealth distorts humility and disconnects from reality. Well, I've always said this. Years ago, I said this. Decades ago. Not just about if you're famous or not. I think just money. I think extreme wealth allows you to be stupid. Anybody can be stupid. You can be poor and be stupid. Middle class and be stupid. But I think that the richer and the wealthier you are, the more vocal and the more exposed you can be and show and speak and be louder about all the crazy things you want to be. Because you're just, that money kind of insulates you. So that is something that I want to explore a little more. Why lies go viral. Outrage incentives, algorithms, and the cost to our souls. And then there's one more, the long game. Perseverance and trusting God's timeline for purpose. I had kind of as a bullet point to that one, which I think will be a really, really cool one, and that is faith and science. You see, there's a lot of information, and you can Google this. You can, whatever you use, you can search this and find that there are some theologians, some scientists and whatnot that are able to show you more and more evidence, scientific evidence that is for the case for God. Not the opposite. And I think that's something that scares some people. But, and I think there'll be an episode regarding atheism, because I think I'll attack that from a perspective that might surprise some of you. But those are some of the episodes. I'm thrilled. I'm stoked to be talking about some of those things. And I'm going to have to agree with my wife, though, too. And I believe I'm going to get some guests on for some of those particular ones. I think that'll be fun. Now, moving on to writing. I did write a screenplay, and it's kind of the story. I always said this, the story of my story is a better story than my story. I did. I wrote that. I actually wrote a screenplay. Now, I don't know. I never knew how to write a screenplay. I never knew how to write a book. Screenplays, in many ways, it's markedly more difficult than writing a book. But there are things about writing a book that are significantly more difficult than writing a screenplay. Because the screenplay, you've got, mine ended up being a little over 100 pages. And you're essentially writing directions for a director and for an actor or actress to follow. So it's totally different dynamic than narrative expository, paragraph in a novel, whatnot. So I'm really excited about that. It's kind of on the back burner right now. I think what I want to do with it, though, I think that it would actually probably make a better story with a book. I think the book would be better first for that. Now, I did start another book that only made it past the title page. But then in the summer, I started another one just looking at ideas. And inspiration comes in really weird places. A lot of inspiration comes from when I'm at church or when I'm talking with somebody about faith or whatever. This particular piece of information that I gathered was actually at church. And I thought to myself, I've got one particular type of writing, which is nonfiction. And my foray into the screenplay was something that was kind of historical fiction or fact-based fiction. But this is purely fiction. I finished the book. I've never in my life been this excited about a project. I've never in my life been more happy with the product and what I did. I'll tell you what it is. It's a spiritual thriller. I've had some folks out there reading chapters and things like that. And what it's done, this particular piece of literature that I've written, has definitely spurred something in me to where I've got a lot more to write because of it, which is pretty wild. When should I show more? I don't know yet. There's just other things that have to happen. Because I have agents, and it's pretty wild. My literary agent is in New York. And I've got to go through all those steps. So I don't know. I'm already started book 2 because I absolutely see this as a series. And I don't know where it's going to go, how it's going to get there, but it's going to be really cool to watch. And I think that when people read it, I hope, but I think a lot of people will be like, boom, wow. Wow. Because here's the deal. Writing nonfiction, and I love sharing my story, but there's so many guardrails. And regarding the book and the movie, there were so many things we had to abide by. There's so many things that were, kind of sanded off. The rough edges, the gritty edges, the edgy stuff. And I'm like, no, I wanted that. And just the feeling. But with fiction, I think I found my genre. Absolutely. You don't have the guardrails. And you can create and make anything the facts of your fictional story. But what's also really cool is that what we have at our disposal today, for example, the book that I just completed, I needed to know things about, I'll give you some of this. I needed to know things about New York City. I needed to know things about Long Island. I needed to know things about certain topics, certain products that they're just in a world that I didn't exist in. I don't exist in. And we have access to things now that can get us that information, just a multitude of ways and at your fingertips, not in minutes or hours, but in seconds. And to me, that was one of the most fun aspects of writing my book was having to do all the research that I had to do and then watching it and seeing it come true, which is really cool. Now, I'm hearing some echo, and I don't know if it's just me or if Austin's doing something. Hope it doesn't come through. Darn it. But anyway, I am excited. Can't wait to share more, and I will. I've got to wait for a few certain things to happen before I can share exactly what's going on. But because of the holidays, things got kind of turned upside down, and it's been like an episode every couple of weeks. I really want to do things once a week, and it's a challenge. It really is. And this whole thing, having a podcast is a challenge. When you spend several hours recording, editing, things like that, and then a dozen people watch it, it's tough. But the thing about it is those things aren't killing me. They're not dragging me down because I'm having so much fun doing it. I really enjoy speaking, talking into the camera. And as I said about 4 episodes ago, it's absolutely, I think, the style I want to emulate going forward, which is just line it up and talk. I'll have notes like I've done. I've had some notes that I just essentially read them as cues. But thanks so much. And if you like it, please, even if you don't like it, please leave me a comment. Please share, hit subscribe, all that. That's what really, really matters. And it helps. It helps views because nobody's going to learn about the Green Pants podcast unless someone shares it, someone recommends it, and just filters through it that way. So thank you so much. God bless. And 2 Timothy 4:7. Boom. God bless.